Heart Media. Your voice, your heart, your opportunity. Welcome to tonight's show.
Well, we've got Community Heart Radio. It's 98.9 Northwest FM, and what a big night we've got tonight. I'll tell you what, you wouldn't believe it. You know, Julio's put on 20 pounds. 20 pounds he's put on since he was the age of 15. And tonight's a big night for him because we're going to talk about men's health tonight. And I've got something to say, Julio, that you may be a bit surprised about, but I think I've got a few issues in that area myself. You may be a bit surprised about that.
I am surprised. I thought you were like trimming down with all those schnitzels you're in. So, you know, I thought that was your new dietary intake and slimming down process you've got running.
Well, I think our special guest tonight, Richard Paterson, has got something to say to you and I, and anyone listening out there, whether male or female, but especially Julio, because that's unbelievable. 20 pounds you put on, Julio. So I think you've got to listen tonight. And Richard, it's great to have you on Community Heart Radio tonight, mate.
Mate, thanks for the invitation. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we're really looking forward to getting to know you, Richard, and hearing your story. And I know Julio's going to be taking a few notes. So it's going to be a big night. But Julio, don't forget, if you're listening out there in Facebook land, you can make a comment. And so we'd love our audience to make a comment. And Milton the Monster has already said g'day and wondering, of course, he's wondering where Kelly is. So Kelly will be joining us. She just got a few technical issues and she'll be joining us tonight. But it's a big night, Julio. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good, and just got a text message from Kelly saying I'm 2 minutes away. So we're going to get Kelly pretty soon.
She's coming in. She's just getting something to eat.
Yeah. Plus, I'm trying to dodge the question.
Now, Richard, tell us a bit about who Richard Paterson is. It's great to have you on the show tonight, by the way.
Good on you. Thanks. It's great to be here. So, yeah, I'm oh gosh, I don't know what sort of information you want to know about me, but I guess related to what I'm here for to talk about tonight, I guess my health journey is kind of what started this whole progression and the establishment of Basix for Blokes. I'm a single dad. I raised my son on my own since he was 4. And in the midst of all of that, there was some really ugly stuff that took place with litigation that was involved in an aspect of my life. And that litigation was all about keeping my son safe. So in the midst of all of that, and a lot of expensive lawyers' bills and all that sort of stuff, I was diagnosed with a pre-cancer condition. And I ignored that, as lots of blokes do. And I left that alone because, you know, I guess subconsciously what I was saying to myself was, I'm too busy to be worried about my health. And, you know, I'm involved in this really challenging litigation. I've got a corporate job that I've got to, keep performing in. I'm bringing up a kid on my own. All this kind of stuff going on. I haven't got time to worry about my health. And then one morning, literally the first thought that I had when I woke up one morning was, what happens to my son if this becomes cancer? And it was like a really confronting moment for me. And at that moment, when I look back, what actually happened in that moment was that I took ownership of my health. And I realized that I had to be in charge of my health. And part of the first part of that process was that I realized I had to lose weight. And to cut a long story short, the most dynamic part of that change was that I lost 50 kilograms, 50.
Wow. So how much did you actually weigh? Were you heavier than Julio is, or how much did you actually weigh?
I reckon I would have been about 3 of Julio.
Yeah.
So I was 126 kilos. And today I've probably put on a couple of kilos since the 50, but I'll be about 78 now.
78 kilo. Yeah. Well, Julio and I got that number well and truly covered. But
That's right.
126 kilos is that's a fair weight there.
Yeah.
Just bring Kelly on.
Can we bring Kelly on? And
Hi,
Kelly, how
everyone.
you going?
Well, I've decided I officially need to invest in a new laptop, my next purchase.
Fantastic. Well, I thought you were going to say you want to invest in some food. We just heard about Richard. He was 126 kilos and he's now 78 kilos. So Julio's been on a diet for about 3 years and he's gained about 20 kilos. So he's gone the other way. And but Richard, it's great to have your story, mate. Now, for those of us out there that are trying to lose a couple of kilos, how did you lose 50 kilos?
Well, basically, I eat less. That's really the critical difference. And I'm a part of what's behind the charity that I've set up is that I think one of the things that's happened is that one of the criticisms I guess I have of the health industry is that health has been commoditized, and everything about getting your health, improving your health, unfortunately all comes back to money now, and it's creating careers and professions and stuff like that. And the reality is that most of us actually know what we need to do to be healthier.
I was just going to say, Richard, ironically, I used to work as a health profession with people with nutrition. And one of the questions I was going to ask you is, it comes down to one main thing is your motivation. What was your motivation and drive to change? Because that's the key aspect.
Yeah. So my drive was that I had a pre-cancer condition.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was a single dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I was worried what would happen to my son if that became a cancerous condition.
Got you.
And so I actually now have worked by a belief that, and it applies to health, is obviously the context where I discovered this, but I think it can be applied to any aspect of our life, is that what I discovered was when I found my why, my how found me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had the reason, and my reason was that my son needed a healthy dad, a healthier dad than he had. Once I found my reason, the way to do that presented itself to me. So I think often what happens is we try and work out what's the best way to lose weight or to get healthy or to make money or whatever. And we're looking at the how. And a how will never, ever be powerful if your why is not stronger than the how.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, I think Julio, I reckon my why may not be that powerful because I'm stuck on the how because Richard said we've got to stop eating or reduce our eating to lose weight, and that's not easy, is it, mate? I mean, you and I are both foodies. We love eating. What about your how and why, Julio? How are you going with that?
My why sort of has declined a bit because of my personal life has changed a little bit. So I've changed my why, but I've always been the value of a great person. I read of a book that's saying if your why doesn't make you cry, you got to find a new why, and that's basically the way I take my why.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be really serious, which you're right, Richard. It's a really serious thing when you look at yourself. And you've got to challenge yourself in why really belongs to you.
And also one of the things that has changed for me, and I'm a foodie, by the way. That's why I was 126 kilos. And I still love my food. Anybody that follows me on Facebook will know that by my breakfasts.
Yeah, I was just going to say, mate, I see a lot of photos of your breakfast there on Facebook, mate.
Yeah. What do you have for breakfast, Richard?
Sorry?
What do you have for breakfast? What's your go-to?
Well, Mark can probably vouch for the fact that there's not a simple answer to that, is there? It varies. But one of the things, too, that I've found really helpful with changing my eating habits is that the human brain, the main function of the brain is to look after us. And one of the problems is that our focus with eating is all about depriving ourselves and what we can't have. And, you know, oh, you can't have this and you can't have that and you've got to cut down that and you've got to go without this. And what I do now is the question that I ask myself for breakfast is, how am I going to get my protein for breakfast?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually asking myself something that I need. And I'm focused on what I need, not what I don't need.
Mm.
And so all of a sudden, I'm not focusing on cutting out sugar and I'm not focusing on getting rid of carbohydrates. I'm actually focusing on getting protein.
100%.
And so I'm looking at how am I going to get my, and that's what I do for each meal, is to say, how am I going to get my protein?
And that's a perfect concept, Richard. I always used to say to my clients, how are you going to get your protein? How are you going to get your carbohydrates? And how are you going to get your vegetables? And think about it as third for each of your main meals. Write a list and think about those combinations. And they always looked away thinking, wow, that's really interesting.
I think you're right there, Kelly, because Milton says about steak, and Julio sometimes goes on these diets where all he eats is meat. Isn't that right, Julio?
Pretty much, yeah. I have full meat diets for about a month, 30 days on meat. So
yes,
that's my little
still
cut
got
to
that 20 kilos, mate.
But if you change that around, right? And if you, like Richard's saying, and you go, okay, I can have my steak, that's my protein, that's my third. How can I get my carbohydrates with that first? And how can I get my vegetables?
Well, Richard, what would you say to people like Julio, who's a total failure at his diet? What would you say to him?
He's not.
I would say he hasn't found his why yet. Anybody that is, I don't like using the word failure, if they're not progressing as well as they would like with their health, they haven't found the strong enough why. And that's part of the purpose of me establishing Basix for Blokes, is to focus on this, helping mainly men find a reason that they need to be healthier. And I'm also, one of my other philosophies is that we should celebrate progress, not perfection. So if you're wanting to, say, for example, if your objective was to drop your weight by 10 kilos, you don't wait until you've lost. Every week that the needle on the scales is going in the right direction, do something to celebrate, because that's progress. I need your help.
I need your help, Richard, because my goal to lose 10 kilos has been my goal for the last 10 years, and I think
Mark's too busy whining and dining, Richard. That's the truth.
Well, I think this why thing, mate, we've got to think about it. Look, I'm with Julio. We're both total failures. We did start this Fat Boys Club a few years ago, and none of us are under the weight we want to be at, and we've failed. So let's just focus on this why. And if you're listening, don't forget, we wanted you to join the conversation. It's 98.9 Northwest FM, Community Heart Radio. And if you've got a why out there, or you've got a question for Richard, just put it on chat, male or female, doesn't matter. We're talking about health today, and we've got Richard Paterson from Basic Blokes with us. And so, Richard, if Julio and I, and look, I'm not going to talk to Kelly, if she might have her whys, but obviously Julio and I got our whys mixed up. How do you discover, what's your advice to discovering a why?
Well, one of the best ways that I've found is I do quite a lot of corporate presentations talking to corporate males, and I ask two really simple questions. I say, put up your hand if you're a dad, if you've got kids. And in the kind of environment that I'm speaking to, most of those audiences, probably 90% of the guys put their hand up that they've got kids. And the next question is, leave your hand up if you want your kids to have a dad in 5 years. And all of a sudden, there's a really tense atmosphere in the room. And then those that have still got their hand up, I say, this is the killer question, is what's your plan to make sure that happens? And you could hear a pin drop in the room. And for most of us, the greatest driver for us to improve our health is to think about somebody that needs a healthier version of me. That was my experience. My son, totally, his whole life depended on me. What would happen to me? What would happen to him if I wasn't there? And that's pretty confronting. As a dad, we'd all like to think that we're being our best version of ourselves for our kids. But if we're not the healthiest version of ourselves for our kids, is that really the best version of ourselves for our kids? Because our kids need us to be here in 5 years. I don't care how old you are. If you're 20 or if you're 60, your kids need you here in 5 years. And okay, there are some things that are outside of our control, but the reality is that our health is within our control. A lot of our health is within our control. And that's I guess my tagline with what I'm doing with Basics for Blokes is my mission is to get men to take ownership of their own health. And the easiest way to do that is to think about who needs a healthier version of you. And it might not be your kids. It might be if you run a business and you employ 10 people, potentially 10 people's grocery bill and their mortgage and their school fees are relying on that person that owns the business. If they're gone and the business is gone, the income for that person is at risk. Yeah. And similarly, if you're an employee, your boss needs you to do your job so the business keeps going.
Well, Richard, I think we need a response from Julio because, come on, mate, what do you think about this, buddy? You're going to take some personal responsibility here or what?
Oh, it looks like I have to. You're holding me account here pretty strongly, Mark, so I reckon I should do it, and we should do it together, just us two, make a pact.
I was just going to say, Mark, how are you?
Yeah, no, I've already confessed that I'm a failure in this area and I do need Richard's help. Now, Richard, I want to push you a bit, mate, because losing 50 kilos, that's an amazing job, but it couldn't have come as easy as you're making out. Like, no. Did you have any battles? Was it hard times, mate, doing it, or you just a dream run, you gave up all the beautiful chips and tiramisu and all the lovely things that we all like eating, chocolates?
One of the tricks that, and I did it with help, and my doctor was really helpful because I think these kind of things, accountability is really important. And I remember one of the things that my doctor said to me, he said, look, if you get cravings, because one of the things that I had wasn't an addiction, but a great affection, a real romance with, was Coke. And he said to me, if you really, really need a Coke, go and buy a can of Coke. Have 2 mouthfuls out of it so you get the taste of the Coke, then throw the can out. And so I started doing that. And it was the best bit of psychology anybody's ever done with me because I've got a Scottish heritage. And where I nearly used a really bad terminology about part of the anatomy being tight. But there was an element of that after I'd done that 4 or 5 times, I'm thinking, I've just spent $2.50 on a can of Coke and I had 2 mouthfuls. What a waste of money. There was no point buying the Coke, so I stopped buying Coke. And there was one of my problems done.
We've got Daryl Gardner listening from New Zealand. He reckons I'm an okay dad. Julio, what do you reckon? Oh, great bod. Okay, thank you.
Great pod, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Daryl. You haven't seen me for a while. I probably haven't seen me for 20 years, but that's a nice comment there, Julio, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been able to take it to 30 years, actually, so maybe that's the issue.
Well, Kelly, you're a nutritionist. Come on, join in. What's your advice to losing this weight?
Where do I start? Okay, so men and women are very different age groups, different environments. And one of the best advice that I can give people, a few things actually. If one is wanting to lose weight, it's 80% what you eat and 20% of the exercise. And I always remember saying to someone, if you're going to have a can of Coke, for example, that's 2 hours of exercise that you have to take to burn that off. Is it worth it? They're like, wow, 2 hours of exercise? That's a lot just to burn off that can of Coke. Then to lose weight, think about what you've got to do. The other thing is about, I agree with Richard, that accountability. So looking at what's your driver and what's going to motivate you. So is it group classes? Is it someone to go for a walk with? Is it what's going to be your driver? And I really like the point you were making, Richard, about is it employees? Is it family? Is it health condition? What is going to be motivating you? And it's finding your temptation as well. So if you've got things easily accessible, it's easy, isn't it? You can go get that Coke. You can go get that chocolate. You can go get that packet of chips. But if you really want it, you got to drive and get it. So I often found that useful to say to clients, if you're wanting to make that change, and if you're wanting it, if you want Macca's, like Milton said, was I at Macca's? No, I wasn't. But if I want it, I'll get it. Definitely. I still have those cravings. But you've got to drive and get it. Because if your temptation's there, then it's easily accessible. But if you want it, go get it.
Is there a comment there about Coke, Cal, is there?
Yeah.
Coke, sugar is not the problem, food is. Yeah, and it's also about the environments. So Mark is a social person, out whining and dining all the time, right? So let's say he's eating out 4 times a week. So you got to be thinking, what is he having? Or if he's putting sugar into his coffees, I think, what about if you just took that sugar out?
You know what I don't like? It's that sort of finger food stuff where they keep coming around. They've got the chicken, they've got this and that, and you sort of grab one, then you grab another one and another one, and it just sort of, before you know it, Richard, it just goes on. Now, you've been a corporate man. You are a corporate sort of guy. How do you go with this hospitality stuff when you're going out? What did you used to do? How did you discipline yourself to, maybe have one thing rather than 10 things?
I think about my son.
Okay.
And seriously, my son means everything to me.
Mm.
And what do I need to do to be the most responsible dad for my boy? Because to me, I'm really relationship driven. And I kind of think, like, am I being responsible dad by eating that? And that's enough of a litmus test for me.
Okay. Obviously, Julio and I don't care about our kids much. Is that right, Julio? You don't care about your kids? Is that why you put on 35 kilos?
Yeah,
You've just never thought of it in the context. You've never put that context on it. I mean, we've got, coming back to the accountability thing, I'm the chaplain at a footy club, and one of the guys that is one of the fittest guys at the club, like super, super fit. And I was chatting to him at training the other night, and I was saying to him, I said, mate, you're looking really good. Like, you're really looking strong and trim. And he said, yeah, but I'm just haven't got on top of my eating. He goes, I'm doing really well in the gym, but I'm just not getting I'm slipping. And I said, well, what is it specifically that you're slipping with? And he said, I'm just having too many carbs. And he said, also, I'm having them at the wrong time of the day. And I said, well, do you reckon you could cope by becoming really, really conscious about reducing carbs after lunch? So once you've had your lunch, really, really, really be disciplined with the lack of carbs after your lunchtime. And he goes, yeah, I could do that. And I said, okay, do you believe enough that you can do it, that you will let me you will make yourself accountable to me? Every day, I will text you between 8 and 8:30 at night, and I'll say, how did your carb intake go since lunch today? and he gets a text from me between 8 and 8:30. In fact, you might have seen I just sent it to him now. And I say, how did your carbs go today? And so he's now, and he was rapt that I was prepared to hold him accountable. But he said, I saw him on at the footy on Saturday, and I said, like, he goes, mate, this week has been so much easier because I've known that you're going to ask me the question at between 8 and 8:30 every night. You're going to ask me the question, and I've got to have an answer for you. So
fantastic, Richard. I think you might start having to text a few of us here. I don't know how many texts you send a week, but you must be sending quite a few. Now, don't forget, guys, it's 98.9 Northwest FM Community Heart Radio. We're talking health tonight, and we'd love your comments and questions of Richard tonight. And Julio, do you want to text, mate?
Oh, I love a text, yes, just to pull my head into gear and get myself motivated again. Most of the time,
Richard, I think I should be messaging both of them. I think maybe I should be the one between 8 and 8:30, messaging Julio or Mark, but it won't be the same message. Mark, it'll be, how many times did you dine out? You're right, Milton. And Julio, it'll be, what have you done for you? There you go.
What have I done for me?
How come you're being soft on Julio? He's put on 35 kilos since the age of 10.
Yeah, but...
Well,
am I right or am I right?
I'll share the text. I'll share the text. This footballer's just responded to me, and all I said in my message to him was carb report and a question mark, and his response was, carb report has been good today. Must admit the long weekend wasn't amazing, but also not as tragic as it could have been. Thanks for following up. So, I think that, and one of my objectives with Basix for Blokes is this kind of stuff, for us to love our mates enough to have the hard conversations about our health, and for me to say to this guy, what can I do to help you in your journey, mate? And it's all about progress. It's not about, this guy is 50 times healthier and fitter than I am, but he still wants to go to the next level. Yeah. And that doesn't matter what our starting point is. The whole thing is we've just got to want to go to a higher level, regardless of the starting point. And, I've just gone back to the gym, and like I'm lifting weights and I'm just about doing a FUFA valve, and then the next bloke that comes along and uses a machine that I've just used adds on about, 50 kilos and does it easier than I did. But that's not the point. The point is I'm back at the gym, and I wanted to go to, I might only be, bench pressing 20 kilos, but I am bench pressing 20 kilos, which is probably ahead of 90% of the blokes in Melbourne. And it's because I want to
Richard, tell me this, mate. Okay, you had this health condition. You've been focusing on your son. You lost 50 kilos to really make yourself healthy and to be able to be a great dad. But what motivated you to start a charity for other blokes? What motivated you to actually give this thing you've experienced away to people like Julio and myself?
I think I'm really passionate about helping dads be the best dads they can be, because I just think, and this is no disrespect for mums, but we hear all the time, about how important mums are, and, mums are this and mums are that. But so are dads. And I think dadship flies under the radar far too much. And we need to be challenging each other. And we need to be challenging the young guys that are not dads yet to say, you work out when you want to be a dad. Don't do it before you're ready. And when you're ready, what's it mean to you? So it was driven by that. But I think the thing was that I feel like my philosophical and spiritual beliefs are such that I reckon I was given a vision about I went through an experience, and I'm making it sound like it was really easy. It was really hard work, and to a degree it still is. But I feel like I got some keys to unlock male health, because most of us are being told about how to do stuff, and like this shake's better than that one, and this pre-packed meal plan is better than every other one, and this gym's got the best equipment. I don't care how good the equipment is. If you haven't got a good reason to be getting fitter, doesn't matter how good the equipment is. It's going to be short-lived. And I think I just have this belief that philosophically we focused on, when it comes to health, with too much effort and effort and energy is going into the how. Like
So
what you've got to do and how to do it.
What do you do with these men? Because do you find, like, what does the program involve? Because do you find one of the biggest challenges with, not just with men, but with everyone, is starting and continuing? Is that drive behind it and connecting?
Yep, for sure. And at this stage, one of the primary things is to start the conversations, because one of the things that I'm advocating is that we destigmatize health conversations by males, because we just don't talk about our health to each other. And the other thing too is that us blokes are really bad at being proactive with our health. We wait until we're half dead before we go to the doctor. And it was actually really interesting. The guy who, a professor at Melbourne Uni, used to be the head of surgery at the Peter MacCallum Hospital. And I was having coffee with him one afternoon. He's a big advocate of what we're doing. And I'm sitting with him having coffee in Lygon Street one day. And I said, mate, why do we blokes find it so hard to go to the doctor? And we had this conversation and he goes, I don't know. We came up with a potential explanation, and it's guesswork. It's not scientific data, but it kind of makes sense that when girls go through puberty and adolescence, their body goes through so many changes that most of them have to see a doctor in that process at some stage. And then when they get pregnant, they have to go and see the doctor throughout the pregnancy. And then when they have the baby, they have to go and see either a nurse or a doctor to get checkups for the baby. Then when they have kids, it's generally mum that takes the kids to the doctor. So the doctor's surgery is a very familiar place for a female. It's not for us blokes. There's plenty of guys that haven't set foot inside a doctor's surgery for 10 years. Now, I've got a mate who I went to high school with whose brother just recently got diagnosed with bowel cancer. So my mate went to, he plays veteran soccer, and he had a knee reconstruction, and he's there seeing the doctor about his knee. And he said, oh, by the way, my brother just got diagnosed with bowel cancer. Is there anything that I should do to check whether I'm vulnerable to that? And the doctor said, my oath there is. He said, you need to have, for starters, have a colonoscopy. So he went and had a colonoscopy, and you know what? They found 2 early-stage tumours in his bowel, removed them, and then waited for a few weeks, and then found out that they got the whole margin and everything's fine. So he's going to be fine. But the doctor said, if you had to come and had that colonoscopy 12 months later, I would not be delivering you good news.
Wow.
So one of my messages, and here's a fantastic story. Simon Madden, absolute champion, is AFL royalty. He and his brother Justin played over 700 AFL VFL games, and their dad was an avid footy follower, like fanatic. And, I just feel so sad for Simon and Justin's dad. He never saw one game that Simon or Justin played because he died early because he didn't look after his health. And Simon is a massive, massive advocate of what we're doing because he's lived the experience of his dad dying early. And he's so disappointed that his dad never got to see him play a VFL or AFL game. And interestingly, also one of the things not that long ago, Simon became a grandfather, and he feels ripped off that his sorry, not a grandfather, when he became a father, and he has recently become a grandfather, but when he became a father, his kids didn't have a grandfather. And he felt like his kids were missing out. And like you hear stories like that and you say, hopefully any self-respecting dad is going to say, by crikey, I don't want that to be me. And, you know, these are the stories that are starting to build up a gallery, you know, like a whole library of stories like this.
It's definitely a great message, Richard, that you're saying to us. And I think it hits home to all of us, especially those of us that are struggling. But I think it's probably something we all want to do. I think if you ask everyone they want to lose weight, they get stuck on the how, but maybe they get stuck on the how because they haven't got a strong enough why. You've certainly given us some good reasons to have the why. Have you got any more advice about the how? I mean, I got your can of Coke story. That's good. And is there any other tips you've got on the how that helped you lose 50 kilograms?
Well, I think Kelly Erd, you know, alluded to something that's really important, is that basically blokes are pretty lazy with their eating. We'll eat what's within an arm's. You know, I remember somebody once said, "What's the best way to get a bloke to eat fruit? Put it within arm's length." Like, we will basically eat the thing that's the easiest to access. So at home, when you're doing the grocery shopping, buy the stuff that you should be eating. Don't buy the crap, because if the crap's there, you'll eat it. So like once you're at home, if you got the right stuff, and that's why I know this sounds really weird, and maybe I've got OCD, I don't know, but I always have to have at least half a dozen eggs in the house.
Yeah.
Because like for me, eggs are I got home from footy training later than I normally would last night. So I just poached a couple of eggs and had a piece of toast.
So Richard, question, can I ask you, if I was a guy, but I'm not, but if my partner, husband, male friend wanted to get involved with your charity, talk to us what it is and how they can get involved.
Well, we're a very, very young charity, for starters.
All good. Doesn't matter.
So most of my effort at the moment is we're just about to start production of a men's cooking show for TV.
Nice.
And that's going to be where we promote. So one of the things that we're trying to do is, I guess one of the first objectives that we're working on is...
Can I come and help, PS? I've got loads of ideas.
No, this is not a dating show. This is a cooking health show.
So what we're trying to do is destigmatize health as a topic for men to talk about.
Yeah.
So,
exactly. Yeah.
And we're just using cooking as the excuse to get an audience. And so we'll have a male celebrity as our guest each episode. Brilliant. Who's had a health journey that they've conquered, a health challenge that they've conquered. And then we'll have a guest chef, and that chef will teach the guest some aspect of healthy cooking. Now, to give you the example, the pilot episode, Jared Roughhead, that used to play for Hawthorn and now coaches at St Kilda, is our first guest who had a battle with cancer. And so the chef is going to teach him how to cook gluten-free meat pies. So there'll be a whole lot of banter goes on in the kitchen, but then I'll interview Jared. And the whole idea of the show is to get Jared talking about the emotional journey that he went on with his illness. So he's actually talking about the inner journey of his health. So things like, what happened inside of you when the doctor told you had cancer? What was the first thing you did when you left the doctor's surgery? Who was the first person you rang? What did that conversation look like? Why did you choose him to call? How did you tell your wife when you got home? All those sort of things. So it's not actually about the disease. It's actually about the processing of the disease. And that's the thing that we blokes need to start doing. And by getting guys like Jared to open up and make himself vulnerable about his health journey, that's what we want to do. We want to start walking groups for guys, like so that they'll go for a 45-minute walk together once a week and consciously talk about their health as they go for their walk. So it's not just about getting the exercise, but it's about setting a time aside where they practice this idea of talking of health issues with their mates and then create this accountability with each other. So, you know, I might have a drinking problem. So I say to my mate as I'm walking around, you know, look, I'm drinking every day and really, you know, I need to cut down. So I'm not going to drink on Mondays. And my mate would say to me, can I hold you accountable to that? So next Wednesday, when we walk next Wednesday morning, can I ask you how you went on Monday? And then start doing that kind of stuff. So I don't have a silver bullet that's going to suddenly make every male on the planet Superman. But let's start a groundswell. Let's just get some foundations built, because I think that's one of the problems is too often when we look at improving our health, we jump to third base instead of going via first and second base.
Let's Julio, I know you've been taking notes, Julio. What do you think about all this, mate? What's your view of what Rich has been saying? Because it could be pretty helpful for a bloke like you.
Yeah, I'm taking good notes here. I'm also taking notes about we have a walking group on Saturday, Richard, and I've got to admit that it's really hard to do the walk because Mark seems to complain every 5 minutes about are we there yet? And it's a continual are we there yet for like the entire 2 hours. So I need some experience in that, how to deal with those situations as well.
Well, look, don't forget you're listening to Community Heart Radio. It's 98.9 Northwest FM, and we're wanting your comments. I don't think we'll go to Milton, but maybe we should. But we're going to be listening to a top 5 of Richard's top 5 tips for us as we go on this health journey. And, you know, maybe we've tonight we've been convicted to go on a health journey again. Many of us have gone on the health journey, but maybe our why hasn't been strong enough. Maybe our hows haven't been followed. Whatever it is, Richard, we've all got to get on it because we've got a lot of good reasons to be healthy.
And I guess one of the things that I do is I go out and talk to groups a lot, and I see what I'm doing is very much starting the ball rolling. We're not doing anything spectacular. We're just getting the blowing the whistle to start the game, basically. So if anybody's involved in groups like, you know, community groups, particularly where there's a high representation of men, like Rotary groups or anything like that, or have a business. You know, today I was involved with a program at a TAFE college talking to the apprentice students, you know, the construction students that were there. And anything like that I'm really keen to do. But coming back to your question, Mark, the first thing is make a decision to take ownership. Just own your health and understand.
Okay, so you're going into your top 5 now, are you, Richard?
Yep.
All right, we might do a little. Julio's got a little intro for that.
Okay, top 5.
Okay, Richard, let's hit it with your top 5 tips for bloke and healthy living.
Yep. Okay. So the first thing is take ownership. Understand that you are the only person that's responsible for your health. You got to own it. The second thing is, in order to do that, work out who needs a healthier version of you. We've all got somebody that needs a healthier version of us. And I think we're very driven by relationships. So if we identify that, also become better at talking about our health. Let's put this on the agenda. So when we're with our mates, start talking about health-related stuff. The fourth one is to take a proactive approach to health. Don't wait until something goes wrong before you take action. Like just start even if you haven't been to the doctor for 5 years, just go to the doctor and say, I haven't been to the doctor for 5 years. Can you just do some, blood tests, whatever you need to do, so that I can get an idea of what my medical markers are? Where am I at health-wise? Because you've got to know your starting point.
Yeah, Kelly, you'd be pretty good about the proactive. That'd be pretty important point number 4, yeah?
Yeah, very, very much so. I think everyone needs to be aware of that, even if it's just small things, even if it's like, okay, I'm going to go for a walk, 10 minutes at lunchtime and in 10 minutes after I finish walk. That's 20 minutes each day. And that's doable, isn't it? If you break that down, 10 and 10. Being proactive, going, okay, this week I'm going to take out sugar in my tea and coffee, doing that and thinking about those small changes. It's thinking about, okay, each time I go to have butter on any sandwich or any toast, I'm not going to have any because it's not necessary. It's an absolute non-necessity. Those small changes make a huge difference. So, and booking into the GP so that you can know your blood sugar levels, cholesterol and everything. So, oh, actually, that's high and I know I need to do something about it. Or making swaps. I always used to say to everyone, think about all the swaps that you can make. So Coke's a perfect one. Rather than full sugar, go for non-sugar. The type of milk. All those little things make a big difference.
Thanks, Cal. What's number 5, Richard? Sorry.
Number 5 is, as far as eating goes, rule number 1, eat more from the farm and less from the factory.
More from the farm and less from the factory. Fantastic. Yep. I like that one, Richard.
And it's nice and easy when you go to do your grocery shopping or you want to, you're deciding what to have to eat. Say, eat the thing that has the least number of steps between the farm and you.
Yep.
And that's really where we should be at. And one of the doctors that I've done some work with, he would say, choose foods that have a low HI index, and that's human interference. So the less humans have interfered with that food, the more of it you should be eating.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
That's great. Julio, let's run through that top 5, buddy.
Okay. Number 1, take ownership. Number 2, work out who needs a better version of you. Number 3, start talking about your health. Number 3, think about your health, see a doctor. Number 5, eat more from the farm and less from the factory.
And Kelly, which one of those 5 resonate with you the most?
I like the last one. There's a few things that people don't recognise with advertising. End of the aisle, that's the most consumer driven, and so that's the most factory driven as well. Line of sight, when you're walking through the supermarket, look down low or high, that's a healthier as well. So it's all these different advertising techniques, I tell you. The tricks of the trade that you learn. So I like that last one.
Yeah. Julio's Milton got anything to say? I mean, he's gone berserk on this health thing tonight. And
he's gone nuts.
He's another guy that probably needs to lose a few kilos by the sounds of it.
I tell you what, Milton, best piece of advice, if you want a pie, get a potato top pie, third of the fat. There you go.
There you go. It's good advice there, Kelly. Okay. Yeah. That's good advice there. So what about you, Julio? Which one resonates with you out of that top 5, mate?
I've got 2. I pretty like number 5, eat more from the farm. But me, number 2, work out who's a better version of you, who wants a better version of you. I reckon that sounds really important because I reckon that's where the why comes in.
Yeah.
Is that one.
So if you're out there listening and what one of those 5 points, does anything appeal to you? So if it does, just put it on the chat. And I think for me, guys, it's taking ownership. I think just taking ownership is probably one that I need to do a bit more of and be proactive when I'm going out. I can tend to have the bread roll and the main course and the entree and
When you say
Dessert.
ownership, Richard and Mark, what do you mean by that? I know what you mean, but I don't think our listeners do. What's an take ownership example? What are you going to do, Mark? Tell us.
I know. I think we'll go to Richard first, and then what is ownership for you, mate? Because you're a success story. You lost 50 kilos. I've put 10 on lately.
Well, I think that just go back to my story, like that. I realised that my son needed a healthy dad, and if he's going to have a healthy dad, it's up to me. I had to own that journey before I went on it. Like nobody else is responsible for my son's dad's health except my son's dad. So I had to just own it and say, I am totally responsible for being 126 kilograms and being unfit, being unwell, having heaps of medication, and being in a really bad state of health. And once I owned that, I was in a position to do something about it because the future of my health was in my hands.
Well, I now don't like that one, Richard, because I've been blaming Julio all the time, and you're telling me I can't blame Julio for my weight problems.
Correct.
It's not very good, is it? Well, look, our time's coming to an end. So, Richard?
Julio paid me a lot of money to pitch it that way.
No, well, you're going to make a big
What's an
difference.
example, Mark, that for all our listeners out there that you think from this week, should we have an accountability that you can take ownership on for the next week?
Well, that's a very good question, Kelly. Very good question.
I could answer that question. Do we answer that question, Mark?
Well, it's, I can. You answer the question, and I can blame you if it doesn't work again. Well, I've got to confess, what I had for dinner tonight probably wasn't spectacular. So I've sort of, I've got to keep taking ownership, and I've got to own that my dinner tonight probably wasn't in the healthy food guide. That's for sure. So
actually,
I think
I just had a drink of water. Then it just reminded me that when I was, trying to organise myself better from a health perspective, I had a food or an eating psychologist, I suppose you'd call him, help me on my journey. And I remember one of the things that he said to me was that the human brain can't differentiate between hunger and thirst. Yeah. And most of us are pretty much permanently dehydrated.
Yeah, that's right.
And usually when we think we're hungry, we're actually thirsty. So if you can make your default reaction to hunger having a drink of water, it'll actually, won't do the harm that the food would do for you, but also it's actually rehydrating your body, which is at the base level, the foundation of a lot of our health issues is that we're dehydrated as a society. And so I start doing that. I always have a bottle of water with me now. And whenever if I feel like I'm hungry, my default now is to have a drink of water.
Have a glass of water each time you have a craving. Yep.
Well, that's just been absolutely fantastic, mate, hearing all this tonight, all your great advice. And I think having some water would be really good. We're coming to the end of the show. It's been really great and helpful. Sorry, Richard, to cut you off there, mate. Did you have another comment?
No, I was just going to say that it's another example of how do you get blokes to drink water? Put it within arm's reach. And that's when we'll, if I'm thirsty and I've got to get up and go out to the kitchen to get a drink of water, I probably won't do it. But if I've got a bottle of water here with me at my desk at all times, in fact, the lazy bloke inside of me, it's easier to have the water that's at my desk than to get up and get something to eat in the kitchen. So it's all about how we structure. And, to a degree, we've got to make it as easy for ourselves as possible. It's not about making it hard. It's about making it simple and doable. Otherwise, it's going to fall away.
Look, it's been great covering men's health on 98.9 Northwest M Community Heart Radio. And Kelly, I've learned a lot. I've been challenged. I don't know how it's going to impact. I'm hoping it will have a bit of an impact on a few kilos. What's your thoughts of tonight's show? Any little points from yourself to wind things up?
I think from my perspective, it's just being that accountability is as a friend, as a colleague, everything like that is always helpful, to gain that drive and to help everyone with their hows and their whys. So that's for me, I see it like that.
And maybe that's a great point, Kelly, that we all should think about someone we can encourage. Let's say encourage.
Exactly.
And yeah. All right, Julio, we'll give up the meat pies, mate. What did you think of the show tonight, mate? What did you get out of it?
I got out a lot. Like Kelly said, you just need to encourage each other and also have a good why. But the main thing tonight is that I'm going to give you a message at 10 o'clock at night tonight, Mark, to say stay away from the tiramisu and stay away from the ice cream.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tell you what's been a big problem is Easter. I got too many Easter eggs. I'm still eating Easter eggs, and the fact I know they're in the house means I eat them. And
see, so as I said,
I've got to give all my Easter eggs to Julio next year. But thanks, Julio. What about you, Richard? Any final comments from yourself, mate?
There is, I don't know, one of the things that we omitted to mention is that it's actually Men's Health Week this week. And it hasn't had anywhere near as much publicity as I would like it to have had. But I don't know whether any of your listeners are from the eastern suburbs in Melbourne, but next Monday night, I'm actually doing having a free community men's health chat in Blackburn. And I throw out the invitation to anybody that wants to come along to that. And I'm doing that at Snap Fitness in Blackburn. They've generously donated the space for me to run that session. So love to get guys to come along, and we'll just have some dialogue about being a bit more of a workshop kind of thing, like talking about what we've talked about tonight, but individuals being able to say, this is what I'm struggling with, or this is what I need to do, and collectively trying to help each other, as a tribe, support each other as blokes towards better health.
Well, so that's Monday night at what time?
Actually, it's afternoon. It's Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Okay, we'll email Julio the details and we'll put it on our website so our listeners can get along, and I'm sure some of them will. How can we help your organisation, Richard? What can we do?
I guess at this stage, I'm really interested in registrations of interest of blokes that might like to be in a walking group, so we can get an idea what areas are, the best ones to start the walking groups, and that can be done. I'll also send through my email address, so if anybody wants that, you can do that through your website or the Facebook page. And I'm just trying to raise the funds at the moment. We've got to get some stuff done to our website so that I can actually set up an online training program so that guys anywhere in the world can do it. And it's called the Caveman Program. And it's all about teaching guys how to be more caring, available, validating, and empathetic. So we're calling it the Caveman Program. So it's the acronym caring, available, validating, and empathetic. So we're trying to raise some funds to do the upgrades we need to do to our website so we can start running online programs. So particularly any corporate that would like to sponsor that, I'd love to hear from.
Great. Well, it's been great having Richard Paterson from Basix for Blokes on 98.9 Northwest FM. And that CAVE program, we'll get you on later and we'll hear more about that program because I love those acronyms of the CAVE. Fantastic, mate. Thanks very much, Julio and Kelly. Thanks for joining us here on Community Heart Radio 98.9 Northwest FM. Have a great week and we'll see you next week. We've got another great speaker next week. And thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Tune in every Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. or watch us on YouTube, Facebook, and follow us on LinkedIn and other social media.